On today's show, we have fraud allegations, rumors of war, and the return of blacklisting. Let's not waste any more time. Let's mediate.
This election is not over. Far from it.
Kelly Akinane right now spelling out the Republican National Committee's plan to fight what's been going on in some states, notably Pennsylvania, with the vote count. Let's listen in.
We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be...
I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging, the other side is welcoming fraud and welcoming illegal voting. Unless she has more details to back that up, I can't in good countenance continue showing you this. I want to make sure that maybe they do have something to back that up, but that's an explosive charge to make, that the other side is effectively rigging and cheating. If she does bring proof of that, of course, we'll take you back.
Do you have any evidence that you can show us today that shows that illegal votes were cast?
Well, I think I just went through that with you. With somebody backdating ballots, that's called illegal. If you are changing the date on a ballot, an election worker, a whistleblower, well, how would we have to subpoena that, and we'll have to get that information, but that's going to be an investigation process. But somebody was told, you need to backdate ballots to make them legal, ballots that were illegal under the law.
So we keep seeing questions that come up. What evidence do you have? What evidence do you have? Again, I'm not for one side or the other. I think investigation is good. But the question here is, why are these people being asked, and everybody, well, what evidence do you have? What evidence can you provide right now? What evidence do you have for your accusations, your claims, of forgery and all these things and fraud? That's the issue. That's what we're looking at. So let's take a look. So whenever we're asking questions, and we need to look at definitions. We need to look at what's going on. What are we looking at? So when they're talking about investigations and they're talking about, okay, what evidence do you have? And again, I'm not partial. I just want things to be done well and be done correctly. I really, whoever wins. I really don't care about that. I just care that things be done well. So when they talk about investigation, here, according to Cambridge Dictionary, investigation is the act or process of examining a crime, problem, statement, etc., carefully, especially to discover the truth. So an investigation is to find out when there is probable cause or perhaps something in question, to get evidence to either prove it truth or false. And so when people are asking, when we're in this situation right now, whether or not there's evidence of it, that's what's being searched. That's what's being looked at, because there are many allegations. There are many things coming up. To give you a little more, it says the act of examining something carefully, especially to discover the truth about it. Again, you have to examine the facts, examine the situation in order to discover the truth about it. That's why this is being looked at. So every time I see this, look at anywhere out there, every one of the news stations, media out there, it says, New York Times says the Times called officials in every state, no evidence of voter fraud. How we can be confident, according to the Washington Post, how we can be confident that Trump's voter fraud claims are baloney. The Texas Tribune, despite no evidence of vast voter fraud, Dan Patrick offers cash. So again, the evidence comes when you do an investigation. You're not going to have the evidence beforehand, because then what would be a point to an investigation? It would be like just charging people because of an accusation and not doing an investigation. Or let's say we have somebody who committed a crime, and unless we have the evidence right before us, before an investigation, we will not do anything further. We will not go to court. We will not do anything. That's not how the process of law works. Think about it. So Rand Paul questions election results. Your government sent 1.1 million dead people stimulus checks. Okay, so he's saying, how can we trust the election results? I think Nevada found several people's ballots from dead people. Somebody who had died. There were people who were 120 years old, 118, and they had died many years before that. So the issue is there fraud? And if there is, it needs to be investigated. And so Rand Paul says 1.1 million people dead received stimulus checks. So if we're sending money out to people who have died, it's very likely that people who have died also voted. That's what he's trying to say. I don't know. It is kind of ridiculous, though, because, I mean, I get it here. They sent out the checks to people who had perhaps filed taxes maybe a year or two before. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but it's a good question to ask, considering that they did find some people who were dead that voted, and they've been dead for a while. So a question to ask myself is, what are the allegations, right? What are they claiming right now? What's the Trump administration claiming? So one of the allegations, it says Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani told Fox News on Sunday that he had 60 or 70 witnesses in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh who were willing to testify that they were kept out of voting counting rooms. So many people are saying that they were kicked out completely or just not allowed in. So there's ample video out there. You look it up on YouTube. I think I posted one the other day of people who said that they were not allowed to enter to observe. And if they were allowed to enter, that they were forced to observe from about 100 feet away, maybe 75 feet. At one point, they finally raised enough of a commotion that they were allowed to stand before the person. But even at 6 feet, it's difficult to see what's going on. And, the claim is, well, coronavirus. Coronavirus is the claim for everything. I don't like what's going on with that. But it says Giuliani charged that that was a violation of civil rights for conducting an unfair election, and the state had denied observers equal protection under the law, which allows for partisan observers to watch the vote count. It says GOP observers were not on site. Giuliani also claimed that dead people have voted in Philadelphia, but did not point to specific evidence in the 2020 presidential election. So they're wanting evidence before an investigation. It's like, show us the proof. How? That's the whole point of the investigation. So we continue here where is this? In Michigan, it says committee chairman Ronna McDaniel, she cited 131 affidavits complete in Michigan testifying to irregularities and more than 2,800 incident reports. That's a lot. 2,800 incidents. Now, again, the way I see this is, okay, if there were 2,800 times that somebody noticed something was done inappropriately, how many times did that person do it before they were actually identified or seen? It's definitely something to look into. And I'm sorry, but I don't want to be one of these countries like where you have mass voter fraud, where you have like Mexico or a socialist country out there, some communist country, where they do have a lot of voter fraud and nobody looks into it. And so if we don't begin to look into these things, let's just say they don't find anything. So fine, great, we have a great system. But if they do find things like it appears to be happening, then we want to fix that. So over in, where is this? Georgia, it says claims of fraud, including allegations of double voting in Gwinnett County. So people, I've heard of claims where people submitted a vote by mail, and I think they also went in and voted, or they had an absentee ballot and they also, submitted another one later. So there's some claims of that. Don't know if it's true or not, but it needs to be looked into if it is the case. Finding ballots in a dumpster. Okay, now this supposedly was fact-checked and not accurate, but there are many reports of this. There's somebody who, under oath has said that they witnessed a lot of this. So, I mean, that's a heavy claim. It says Arizona claiming to have evidence of poll workers mishandling ballots and discarding votes in Maricopa County. Guys, there's a lot of stuff out here, a lot of reporting, and it could just be people who say, who don't want Trump to lose. Could be, it could be factual. We need to look into it. I say do it, and if nothing comes of it, again, certain people will have spent a ton of money and time, but hey, you know what? It'll be worth it to keep the integrity of our system. This came out on the 8th. It says Georgia County is rescanning ballots due to an issue related to reporting on the vote counting conducted on November 6th, according to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. It says in doing so, he learned that some ballots were not captured in last night's results. The Saturday statement added, he also learned of a smaller number that were not scanned. Those are now being prepared for scanning. So there were some that were not put in. There were some that were missed. This is all important stuff. We don't know who they were for. Maybe they were for Biden and it holds his lead, or maybe they were for Trump and it puts him in a better position. I don't know. Having said all that, Attorney General, it says that Barr authorizes U.S. attorneys to pursue substantial allegations of voter fraud. And so he's given them the green light. And a lot of people are happy. A lot of people are upset. Attorney General William Barr has authorized U.S. attorneys across the country to pursue substantial allegations of voting irregularities before the 2020 election is certified. According to a memo released Monday, Barr offered no evidence of fraud stemming from last week's election in the document. He got the ball rolling. Some people are already resigning because of it. I ask, why? Why are people resigning? Is it because we're going to find something? Is it because they're doing it in protest? Don't know. Time will tell. We'll find out. I'm not sure what it is. But the fact that there's a cause and effect here, something's definitely up. And I don't know. It's going to get pretty interesting between now and January. So now with Biden in the White House, what changes are we seeing? He's bringing on new people. Well, actually not new. A lot of people of old, right? So he's hiring people who were part of the Obama administration. He's bringing back those, big corporate people. He's getting us back with the countries that we had left under Trump. And so essentially we're going back to the old practices, right? And it's just so interesting because what I think I always go back to, the time of George W. Bush, right? During W. And I look at those times and I look at what was going on then, and I look at the left and I look at what they were against. But a good portion of the left, remember there's two categories there, at least, maybe more. But you have your classical liberal, right? And then you have your progressive liberal, far left. They don't even want to be called liberals, I think. So they're progressives. And so what was contested before, big media, big corporate sponsorship, all these things that were looked at negatively before, it's almost like they're being pushed by the side. It's really interesting how everything's flipping. Really interesting. Why? Because back then I kind of supported that, and now I'm seeing like you guys are totally hypocritical. I just hope that the same thing doesn't happen that happened with Obama. All these people were totally against, this warmongering system. Obama came in and they said, cool, we got our guy, we're done. We're going to go sit back and have some pina coladas or something. And so I'm hoping that doesn't happen now, because it looks like we're moving in the same direction again. It looks like Biden's going to move back to our old system, except probably worse, I'm guessing. And he's going to move us in a direction that's not good in terms of what that position was. So let's take a look at this real quick, because things are going to change rapidly, especially if he does actually retain the seat. Let's take a look. So according to Newsweek, nations on brink of World War 3 amid political unrest, rising COVID deaths, UK defense chief. So this is all the stuff that's up and coming, right? And so there's a big fear that we're going to begin getting back into war. And part of that is we remember the history might not repeat itself, but it has a rhythm. And if you look back at the last century before both world wars, I think it was unarguable that there was escalation that led to the misarticulation, which ultimately led to war at a scale we would never hopefully see again, he said. And so there are patterns coming up that are looking very familiar, things that led to these other wars. And there are already countries that are saying, if this happens, then this is going to happen, meaning war. And China's already kind of looking like a contender here. So China has been touted as a potential antagonist of future war amid the ongoing crisis. There have been suggestions from ministers in Israel that President-elect Joe Biden's stance on Iran could lead to conflict. Let's take a look at that.
It's important to emphasize what that deal did. In reality, it gave the Iranians tens of billions of dollars immediately, over time, perhaps hundreds of billions of dollars. And what are they doing with that money? They're working with the North Koreans. The North Koreans don't have money, but they have nukes. The Iranians have money, but they don't have nukes. It's a perfect synergy.
Right, look, the head of the Iranian Atomic Energy Organization, Ali Akbar Salehi, said a couple weeks ago, we can resume uranium enrichment at the levels we were before the deal within 5 days of the deal being terminated. Now, taking everything an Iranian leader says with a grain of salt, he's not far off. It wouldn't surprise me if a substantial part of Iran's uranium enrichment program was under a mountain in North Korea.
Okay, so that video was a little bit dated, right? A little older. But the point that I wanted to make is just what was being done, what the situation is with Iran, right? So we had the Iran deal, and then Trump eliminated it. He got us out of the Iran deal. Why did he do that? So there's a lot of talk as to what happened, right? So in the process, Iran received $1.7 billion as part of the deal. And so the other issue is that money initially was not reported. It was given to Iran before reporting it here, and it was given to them in cash. So essentially in secret. Now, the question is why? So there was some kind of exchange with hostages and stuff like that, which is a good thing, right? But what the question that Trump had is, what did we get out of it? Well, we got a few hostages, but that's about it. They got $1.7 billion. They still got to create uranium, but at a much smaller percentage. I think to create a bomb, you need about 90% production. They were only allowed 3%. And they were allowed so many facilities and so many things. The thing is, again, and this is reminiscent of the Iraq war and why we went to war. This reminds me a lot of that situation, okay? So we have a deal, and there's sanctions, and there's inspections, and there's all these things, and supposedly it's under control. And at the same time, we ended up in war. And that was a bad judgment. I do believe it was intentional, but we're not going to go there. Anyway, so the whole point is that eventually that ended in war. We think that Iran's following the rules. We don't know. Okay, inspectors go in, but from what you just heard, they could quickly flip the program around. I mean, that deal ended, but even then they could have been working with other countries who are also do not have the same interests as the US and begin this production. We don't know. This is why we have some agencies out there to investigate. But the point is, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and we need to keep an eye on this because what we have is Israeli minister warns of war if Biden returns to the Iran deal. Biden has said openly for a long time that he will go back to the nuclear agreement. Hanegbi said, I see that as something that will lead to a confrontation between Israel and Iran. The prime minister and most Israelis saw the Iran deal signed by the Obama administration in 2015 known formally as a joint comprehensive plan of action as mistaken, and that's an understatement. If Biden stays with that policy, there will, in the end, be a violent confrontation between Israel and Iran, he stated. And so that's the concern here. They're already talking war. And so we know that a big part of what Trump was boasting was that he had created a peace deal with these countries. Maybe not Iran, but there was a peace deal going on with Israel and other countries. And so now we're seeing a possible reversal because there are certain things that are being reversed as well. It's an interesting plot, a lot of stuff happening. So there are a lot of negatives coming up. And we knew in the past, during the Bush era, we were at war. During Obama, we were bombing many different places. There's been constant, back to Clinton and so on and so forth. There's been constant warfare. This is the only time we haven't been in warfare. And it looks like we're going back to our old dealing. So I hope the left raises their fist and says, we're not going to handle that. We're not going to take that. But I really, really doubt it.
Begin with this. The newest coronavirus outbreak could reach its peak at the same time that President-elect Biden is sworn in. That's according to one former FDA commissioner. Joining us now is a member of the President-elect Advisory Board. That's Michael Osterholm. He's director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota.
I think that there's no question that our hospitals are about to be overrun. We're going to see by far the darkest days of this pandemic between now and next spring when vaccine becomes available.
So quick segment on that. Just wanted to run that by you. With this new administration, things are going to look different. We already know that Joe's totally for locking up the country, putting you back in your homes. If that's necessary, I don't know. My opinion, no. When you look at the percentage, it hasn't changed much, right? So we're at about 1%, 3%. And it's very interesting that they're already predicting by January, we're going to have this issue and we're probably going to have to go back into lockdown. Why? Because we have a massive wave of coronavirus coming. How do you know? Do you have a crystal ball? I mean, what is it? I mean, yes, you can make predictions based on what's happening in other countries, but at the same time, there's also a prediction, came out, about a month ago or so, that they were saying by January, we'll probably be at 400,000 deaths. We're halfway through November right now, and last I checked, I want to say we're at 240 or something, 250. Again, all lives do matter in that sense, right? We don't want to lose anybody in terms of coronavirus. But at the same time, your estimates tend to be wrong, right? We've had estimates of 2 million people dead by so-and-so, and then suddenly it's 200,000. So let's just keep our heads on fixed and not lose focus, because these guys, thumbs up, it's coming. They're going to implement these measures again, and just watch, just be mindful and use our heads. Let's continue. And so the saga continues. So here we have Newsweek reporting, Democratic Senator sparks progressive backlash after refusing to back court packing. So Democratic Senator Joe Manchin drew the ire of progressives on Monday night after he pledged not to vote against his own party on Supreme Court packing or ending the filibuster. And so we have this Democratic Senator, Joe Manchin, he's saying, I'm not doing it. He says, so I commit to you tonight, and I commit to all your viewers and anyone else that was watching, I want to rest those fears for tonight. When they talk about whether it be packing the courts or ending the filibuster, I will not vote to do that. I will not vote to pack the courts, and I will not vote to end the filibuster. So there's division, right? So you have your lefties again, like I said, your far lefts, and then your progressives. And he's saying we're not having it. There's a lot of discord right now. Discord as far as there's issues with Nancy Pelosi, whether or not she's going to remain in the seat. So there's talk from House Democrats that they will no longer talk about socialism or defunding the police or anything like that because it costs them several seats. So there's a lot of division in there. And as we know, House cannot stand when it's divided, right? So there's lots of division in the Democratic Party right now. We knew that already. I think we can say that there was pretty good unity among the Republicans, but pretty much the Democrats, we knew that there was division between your progressives, between your classical liberal, between, your even those who were kind of leaning left, though they were. So ultimately, this guy is making the statement, it ain't going to happen. Praise the Lord. I'm glad. Nobody that I know wants this to happen. This is not right. You don't change the rules because you lose. That's just not how it works. And in this situation, and again, that may be happening with the election. Who knows? But in this situation, let's just say, I'm just going to put it out there, right? Let's just say Trump won, okay? Let's just say this whole election thing didn't happen and he actually just took the win. And let's just say he went in there and he said, you know what? You guys wanted to pack the court? I'll pack it for you. I'm going to put in several other justices to make sure that we keep our Supreme Court conservative. People would flip their lid. Why? Because it's wrong. It doesn't matter if it's the left or the right doing it. It's wrong. We have an established system that works. It's an uneven number of justices for the purpose of being able to make a decision. It was set up appropriately. And the only reason that they want to change it is because they don't like the outcome. They want to make sure that they win from now on. That is cheating to the maximum. You can't do that. Again, if the right decided to do that, there would be total destruction, chaos, and this country would come to an end, right? Kind of like we're seeing happen before our eyes. And so, and then the filibuster, well, exactly, goes along with that. So it's all put in there for a reason, and there's no reason to change it. So a lot of disunity going on, and we'll continue with this. So it says, first AOC's list, now CNN warns of blacklisting Trump team. There's a lot of talk about AOC and some of the tweets that she put out, wanting to create a blacklist of people who supported Trump. Could have been people that worked with him, people that supported him in other ways. She wants to make it so they cannot get hired, cannot work anymore. It says, just 3 days after liberal New York Representative AOC urged the creation of a list of President Trump's sycophants, a top CNN host has piled on with a warning that Trump aides battling the president's legal case could see their job possibilities drying up. This is a blacklist. This is the same as what we saw during McCarthyism. And so let's watch a quick video on that.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is facing heat for urging her supporters to create an archive of online postings by Trump sycophants, who may later regret their affiliation with the president. Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? Commenters quickly decided the list-making endeavor was something a ruthless communist dictator would love. Joseph is proud of you. One user wrote, referring to notorious Soviet Union dictator Joseph Stalin. Another person posted a photo of Mao Zedong with the caption, big shoes to fill but you'll get there.
And Sonny, what do you think? Is this the right direction to be thinking right now?
You know, I think that Trump, and I think those people in his administration that not only drafted some of those policies, but were complicit in those policies shouldn't be forgotten. People like Kirstjen Nielsen, people like Stephen Miller, people like Kellyanne Conway, people like Vice President Pence, who was woefully inadequate at his role of being the head of the coronavirus task force, and people like Ben Carson and Betsy DeVos. I don't think that those people should be able to profit from their experience within the Trump administration, and I don't think that they should be forgotten, and I don't think that we should look the other way. I think we need to remember, because if you don't remember things, then past becomes prologue. And I do think that people need to be held accountable for their actions. And I don't think it is reminiscent of McCarthyism at all.
So for clarity, let's look at what blacklisting is, right? I'm sure we've all heard of it, but I just want to make sure that we all understand what it means and the intent behind it. So what was blacklisting in the 1950s? So the blacklist involved the practice of denying employment to entertainment industry professionals believed to be or have been communists or sympathizers. Not just actors, but screenwriters, directors, musicians, and other American entertainment professionals were barred from work by the studios. That's what she's describing, that if you're on this list, you should no longer be allowed to make a living from anything. And we should remember your name and we should have it on the list. It sounds like blacklisting to me. So looking into it a little more closely, it says, what led to McCarthyism? When we look up the concept, it says the idea that it was necessary to guard against people seeking to overthrow the U.S. government took root early in the 20th century. So interesting, right? We have groups on the street, literally anarchists. Some of them are part of the BLM. Some of them are just Antifa. Some of them are just insane. And so they're out there and they want to overthrow the government. It's really interesting. So back in the 50s, we had a group who wanted to do that. They got blacklisted because they were part of this group organizing and wanting to organize. And there's evidence of this. So they were out there. Many artists, Diego Rivera. I mean, it's all these people who actually were part of the Communist Party, and they announced it. Nobody's making it up. And so the goal was to take over the country and eliminate our system of government. And so we are back to this again. But the issue now is that the other side is calling for blacklisting. So now we have the left wanting to overthrow and blacklist, as opposed to, it looked like back in the 50s, we had the right blacklisting people who were communist, far radical, and way out there in the communist world. Things have flipped completely. And the Bible does talk about that, right? Well, they'll say good is bad and bad is good, evil is good, and so on and so forth. And so everything's getting flipped upside down. It's really, really crazy what's happening out here. So part of it was the apparent inability of the United States to prevent the spread of communism, were among the factors causing fear of communist infiltration in the United States. Now we see that it could have been that there was good reason. I don't know. The world is insane right now. So here's an article from the Washingtonian. A new organization says it wants to keep Trump appointees from getting private sector jobs. This is what we're talking about. And so this group, it's called the Trump Accountability Project. It says it would make a major break with DC tradition. So this accountability project wants to make that list and then to keep people from getting jobs ever again. My concern. Yes, they're talking about people that work for Trump, but it's not too long before these same people are coming after you. We already know that if you post certain things and do certain things online, you can lose your job. People are losing their jobs for these things. So if they can move forward in this direction, trust me, it's not long before they come after you. I mean, again, not a huge Trump supporter, but even if you did like some of his things or you ever posted anything, yeah, they may come after you. Just watch out. But it's really insane what's going on out there. It says, you better believe it. We just launched the Trump Accountability Project to make sure anyone who took a paycheck to help Trump undermine America is held responsible for what they did. Ocasio Cortez says, is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants? For when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future, I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. So she wants to hunt you down, chase you down, and take you down, ultimately. Really, really interesting what's going on. And that's what I got for you guys today. So hope you enjoyed the show. Keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled. A lot of stuff going on. Next couple months, a lot of craziness is going to happen. Things are going to get flipped upside down, turn back around. And so just keep your eyes open. We'll continue to inform you, bring you good information. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click down below, click over here, click over there. Click whatever you can, share, post, and come back. And then hopefully we'll have some good stuff for you. So thank you guys. See you later. Goodbye.